Chapter 1088. The other experts' expressions were ugly, but they did not dare to continue snatching. The combat power of Lu Ming and the other three was too strong. Obviously, they were much stronger than them. If they went crazy and went all out to kill them, they would be in danger. For a moment, no one dared to fight with Lu Ming and the others. However, after a flash of light in their eyes, they bypassed Lu Ming and the others and rushed into the depths of the hall. There was a door there that led inside. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming kept attacking. His third bloodline turned into a sword and slashed at the light shield protecting the small pagoda. After dozens of attacks, the light shield was finally broken. Lu Ming was overjoyed and grabbed the small pagoda. It's so hot. Lu Ming felt that his palm was almost burned, and there was a meaty smell. Lu Ming quickly put the small pagoda into the mountain river diagram. Almost at the same time, Yang Padian and the others also broke the formation and put away the treasures. At the same time, the four of them rushed inside. There was another hall inside. Rumble. As soon as they entered the hall, they saw that the masters were fighting fiercely. There was only one thing floating in the air of the main hall. It was a jade plate that was sparkling and translucent, emitting a vast and boundless pressure. This pressure was too shocking, surpassing everything. It was as if it was the embodiment of the entire world. It was incomparably terrifying, far surpassing the sovereign spiritual weapon from before. What kind of treasure is this? It's amazing. Lu Ming was a little stunned. Yang Padian and the others were also a little dazed. Then, their eyes lit up with a blazing fire. Judging by its aura, it had surpassed the Emperor's spiritual weapon. It must be a peerless divine weapon used by someone who had surpassed the martial Emperor realm. It seemed that the World Academy was right. This was indeed the residence of someone who had surpassed the martial Emperor realm. How terrifying would a divine weapon used by someone who had surpassed the martial Emperor realm be? Whoosh! Whoosh! Almost at the same time, the four of them rushed toward the jade plate. Get lost! Kill! Their attacks were aimed at the masters. The masters' faces changed drastically. They quickly blocked the attacks and retreated with injuries. Damn it! Those people were furious and sullen, but there was nothing they could do. They were truly helpless. They were all geniuses of the previous generation. In their era, they were all powerful figures. They were high and mighty, looking down on geniuses of the same generation. But after 10 or 20 years, the current generation had reached the golden age. Each and every one of the geniuses was countless times more brilliant than them. And now, the geniuses of the younger generation had to berate them and suppress them. This made them feel a sense of sorrow. This treasure is mine. Yang Potion's eyes flashed with cold killing intent. What a joke, who do you think you are? Tuobashir shouted coldly, not giving Yang Padian any face. And me fa, I think this treasure is fated to be with this poor monk. Everyone, please don't fight with this little monk over it. Unscrupulous monk still had a smile on his face, but his fiery eyes betrayed him. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with them and rushed towards the jade plate. Boom! A golden palm print covered Lu Ming. It was that heartless monk. Benefactor, this treasure is really fated to be with this little monk. Why do you have to fight with this little monk over it? Unscrupulous monk said. Fated my ass. Stupid monk, get lost. Lu Ming slashed at unscrupulous monk with his sword, colliding with the golden palm print. Benefactor, don't be angry. Unscrupulous monk shouted. His body glowed like a golden Buddha as he threw out a few palm strikes with terrifying power. Stupid monk, stop pretending in front of me. You were the one who used a fake sacred mansion token to cause a huge battle. Don't think that others don't know. I saw it by chance. Lu Ming shouted. Unscrupulous monk's face stiffened. Yang Padian and Tuobashir, who were fighting, stopped and looked at unscrupulous monk coldly. So you're the one who stirred up trouble. Stupid monk, die! Yang Patian roared and charged towards unscrupulous monk. Tuobashir also held his mace and charged towards unscrupulous monk. The two of them were filled with killing intent towards unscrupulous monk. How could they be fooled by unscrupulous monk? They had been trying to find out who the mastermind was. My hair. Benefactors, it's a misunderstanding. Unscrupulous monk shouted and jumped up and down, trying his best to defend himself. Lu Ming moved and pounced towards the jade plate. Buzz! Suddenly, the jade plate vibrated and emitted a terrifying aura. Lu Ming felt like he was going against heaven and earth. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell down. Buzz! Buzz! The jade plate vibrated slightly and emitted a supreme light. Countless inscriptions appeared in the hall and formed terrifying chain-like objects that danced in the hall. Unscrupulous monk, Yang Patian, and Tuobashir could not help but stop what they were doing and look around in shock. They were also greatly shocked by the sudden change in events. What's going on? At this moment, a group of people rushed in. It was Sandalwood Fairy, Kong Xian, and the Emperor God. At this moment, the people behind had already arrived. When they saw this scene, they were inexplicably shocked. Whoosh! A vortex suddenly appeared on the ground. The vortex was black and it emitted a terrifying suction and devouring force. Ah! Oh no! Save me! A few of the weaker cultivators screamed as they were devoured by the vortex and disappeared without a trace. Oh no! Lu Ming and the rest rushed up to the sky, but it was extremely difficult for them. The devouring force was too strong and it was pulling them down. Save me! A sharp cry was heard as Yin Bupo transformed into his true form, a giant eagle. He flapped his wings with all his might in an attempt to defend himself. However, he could not do so and was being pulled down. With a loud roar, his figure disappeared. At the same time, Kong Xian was also being devoured. Sandalwood Fairy's glabella emitted a silver light. Elixir pills flew out and formed a pair of wings to support her. However, she was still sinking rapidly. Get out of here! Lu Ming roared and flew towards Sandalwood Fairy. He grabbed her slender waist and tried to bring her out of the hall. However, it was impossible. The devouring force was too strong and he could not move her at all. Brother Lu, don't worry about me. Escape by yourself. Sandalwood Fairy pushed Lu Ming and fell into the vortex. At this moment, Yang Patian and the rest tried their best to get out of the hall. However, it was useless. The devouring force was too strong and they could not get out. Lu Ming was in the same situation. His body was sinking too. No, Lu Ming saw a few level 4 spirit gods and the Emperor God being devoured. In the end, only Lu Ming, Yang Patian, Unscrupulous Monk, and Tuobashir were left. Buzz! Suddenly, the devouring force surged and multiplied several times. Lu Ming and the other 3 were swallowed and dashed into the vortex. Chapter 1089. Lu Ming felt like he was drifting in the eternal darkness, not knowing where he was drifting to. Slowly, his mind became more and more confused, as if his memories were fading. Everything that happened in the past seemed to become blurry and slowly dissipated. Slowly, Lu Ming became oblivious to everything. After an unknown period of time, Lu Ming suddenly sat up. With a creak, he found himself sitting on a bed. Where is this? What happened to me? I seem to have had a very long dream just now. Lu Ming looked around in confusion. At this moment, the door opened and a beautiful girl walked in. The girl was 14 or 15 years old and was very beautiful. When she saw Lu Ming wake up, she immediately revealed a happy smile and cheered, "Brother Ming, you're finally awake. You really scared me to death." Yao. Looking at Lu Yao's worried expression, Lu Ming felt warm in his heart. He then asked, "Yao, what happened to me? I remember that I went to awaken my bloodline 3 days ago. What happened after that?" Brother Ming, you went to awaken your bloodline 3 days ago. During the process, you suddenly fainted. You have been unconscious for 3 days. During these 3 days, you have been having nightmares. You kept calling out strange names like De. Brother Ming, are you alright? Lu Yao said worriedly. I'm fine. It's just a nightmare. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He really had a dream. It was a very long dream. But for some reason, that dream was becoming more and more blurry in his mind. He almost couldn't remember it. He only vaguely felt that in that dream, Lu Yao left him. Later on, he obtained a treasure, cultivated to become an expert, and went on an adventure on the continent. He only had a vague impression of it. But the more he thought about it, the more blurry and ethereal the dream became. What a strange dream. Lu Ming smiled. He, Lu Ming, was just a useless young master in Fiery Wind City who couldn't cultivate. How could he have such a strange dream? Yao, did my bloodline awakening fail? Lu Ming asked. Brother Ming. Lu Yao wanted to say something but stopped. Say it. I'm fine. Lu Ming smiled. Brother Ming, it's a failure, but it's fine. Even if Brother Ming can't cultivate, your place in Yao's heart won't change. My father has already discussed it with your mother. In half a month, we will hold our wedding. Lu Yao blinked her eyes and said. After she finished speaking, she was a little shy and her face was a little red. The wedding will be held in half a month. Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. At this moment, he didn't know why, but he felt an indescribable pain in his heart. A figure appeared in his mind. This figure was very blurry, and he couldn't see the face clearly. It was a person that Lu Ming had met in his dream. A woman. A feeling of reluctance rippled in Lu Ming's heart. This figure seemed to be very important to him. Who is she? Why do I feel heartache? Was it really a dream? Lu Ming muttered to himself in a daze. Brother Ming, what's wrong? Don't scare Yao, Lu Yao called out softly. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He reacted and smiled, nothing, I just thought of that dream again. Brother Ming, after all, it's just a dream. Don't think too much. Drink the medicine. Lu Yao picked up the medicine and fed it to Lu Ming. At this moment, 2 people walked in from outside the door. One was a beautiful woman, and the other was a beautiful teenage girl. Mother, Mid-Autumn Moon. Lu Ming called out. Ming, have a good rest. In half a month, you will be the groom. Li Ping smiled slightly, revealing a doting expression. Yes, young master. Mid-Autumn Moon, congratulations to you. The girl by the side said softly. Mid-Autumn Moon. Lu Ming looked at Mid-Autumn Moon. In that dream, Mid-Autumn Moon seemed to have become a martial arts genius. However, it was just a feeling. Lu Ming felt that the dream was a little blurrier. As time passed, it slowly faded away. Ming, you just woke up. Have a good rest. Don't think too much. Li Ping said. Then, she left the room with Mid-Autumn Moon and Lu Yao. That dream is so strange. Who is that figure? In the room, Lu Ming was lying on the bed in a daze. Time passed quickly. Day by day, Lu Ming's body recovered quickly. The dream in his mind became more and more blurred. As time passed, it became more and more blurred. He believed that he would soon forget it completely. But he didn't know why. Every time he thought of that dream, a figure would appear, causing Lu Ming to feel a piercing pain in his heart. Who is that figure? Why does it feel so real? Lu Ming whispered. That was the figure of a woman. In Lu Ming's mind, it was hard to erase. In the backyard of the Lu family, a small stream flowed. Beside the stream, there was a pavilion. In the pavilion, a young man and a young woman were cuddling together. Brother Ming, Yao will marry you tomorrow. We will never be separated from each other again. Lu Yao said softly. Her eyes were filled with anticipation and shyness. Lu Ming hugged Lu Yao. His mood was extremely relaxed. The gentle breeze emitted a faint fragrance of flowers. This is really good. Lu Ming looked at the sky and thought. If he couldn't cultivate, then so be it. Wouldn't it be good if he could live an ordinary life? Lu Ming enjoyed such a life. That dream was ultimately a dream. Just let it drift away with the wind. Only that figure couldn't be erased. Occasionally, it would appear in Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming, wake up. Suddenly, a voice entered Lu Ming's ears. Lu Ming was stunned. He turned his head and looked around, but he didn't see anyone. Lu Yao was still in his arms, as if she didn't hear anything. What are you looking at? I'm here, in the stream. That voice sounded again. Lu Ming was shocked and hurriedly looked toward the stream. He saw a little tortoise floating in the stream, staring at him with its eyes wide open. Are you talking to me? Lu Ming's pupils suddenly widened, revealing a look of disbelief. What are you looking at? Who else could it be if not me? The little turtle berated. Brother Ming, what's wrong? Who are you talking to? Lu Yao looked at Lu Ming in surprise. Lu Ming took a deep breath to calm himself down. He said, nothing, you heard wrong. Yao, you can go back first. I'll pick you up tomorrow. Okay, I'll wait for you. Lu Yao blinked his eyes and trotted away. Then, Lu Ming looked at the little turtle again and said in surprise, a tortoise? No, a turtle can actually talk. Could it be a legendary king-level turtle? No, Senior, it's Senior. Junior Lu Ming pays his respects to Senior. Lu Ming bowed to the little turtle. As far as he knew, only the legendary demonic beasts that had reached the king level could speak. He was shocked that there was a king-level monster in the backyard of the Lu family. There might not even be a king-level monster in the entire Burning Sun Empire. King-level my ass. I'm the world turtle, the head of the top 10 battle beasts. What king-level? It's not even worthy to carry my shoes. Boy, Lu Ming, you're in an illusion. Wake up quickly. Are you going to stay in it for the rest of your life? Chapter 1090. Illusion? Dreamland? That's impossible. I'm me. I remember everything that happened to me. How could I be in a dreamland? Senior, you must be joking. Lu Ming furrowed his brows. What are you joking about? You're Lu Ming. In the real world, you were deprived of your bloodline by Lu Yao. Thanks to the help of the 9 Yang remnant spirit, you merged with the 9 dragons' blood essence and awakened your bloodline. Have you forgotten? Little Tortoise shouted. What? Yao deprived me of my bloodline? Impossible. How is that possible? Nonsense. Lu Ming was in disbelief. However, after hearing Little Tortoise's words, the dream he had back then, which was getting fainter and fainter, it seemed to have become clearer. Nonsense. Also, you rose in the end, participated in the Battle of Luck, won first place, and became the first on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Moreover, you're the Zongzi of the Talisman Puppets sect. Now the Talisman Puppets sect is besieged by Martial Emperor De and is in danger. Don't you care? Little Tortoise scolded loudly. With every word, Lu Ming's body trembled slightly. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Talisman Puppets sect, list of top 1,000 talents. Lu Ming muttered to himself. He felt that the dream was getting clearer and clearer, as if it was about to appear. What's your name? I seem to have had a dream before. There was also a little tortoise. Lu Ming's eyes looked even more perplexed. His dream world was slowly emerging. He was in the midst of the intersection between dream world and reality. He could not tell which was real and which was fake. Perhaps, everything was just a dream. Little Tortoise held back for a long time. His eyes widened, and finally he shouted, "My name is Dandan. You gave it to me, you bastard. It's so fucking unpleasant." "Dandan." Lu Ming muttered to himself. He seemed to have thought of something. "Also, your little lover, your little wife, Xian Yanqing, don't you care about her? She was caught by her father and her life is uncertain. Are you going to give up just like that?" Dandan shouted. Boom! 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 The name Xian Yanqing exploded in Lu Ming's mind like a thunderbolt. That figure that could not be erased, that figure that made his heart ache at the thought of, suddenly became clear and vivid in Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming. Yanqing, Yanqing, this is an illusion. Lu Ming's eyes lit up all of a sudden, emitting endless brilliance. Everything the surrounding scenery seemed to have been shattered by Lu Ming's punch. It began to peel off and eventually disappeared completely. Lu Ming discovered that he was standing in a long corridor. Dandan was lying on his shoulder. Lu Ming let out a long breath. He was extremely shocked. That illusion was too powerful. It erased his real memory and made him fall into an illusion forever. He couldn't extricate himself. This time, it was really dangerous. If it weren't for Dandan, he might really be trapped in the illusion forever. That would be equivalent to dying. Thinking of this, Lu Ming couldn't help but feel a little scared. His back was wet with cold sweat. "Kid, this place is no small matter. Emperors can't do it. Be careful. I'm going to hide." After Dandan finished speaking, it automatically went into the mountain-river diagram. Lu Ming looked around. He remembered that they were swallowed by a vortex, but he was the only one around. Yang Patian, Tuoba Shi, Sandalwood Ferry, and the others were nowhere to be seen. This was a passage that led straight ahead. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and walked forward. After walking through the passage, he arrived at a secret room. The secret room was very large. Above the secret room, Lu Ming saw a longan-sized bead floating in the air. The moment Lu Ming stepped into the secret room, the bead suddenly emitted a dazzling light. Amidst the light, a figure appeared. The figure sat cross-legged in the air, and the bead happened to be between the figure's eyebrows. The figure was not very burly, but the aura it emitted was earth-shattering. It gave Lu Ming the feeling that he was facing the heavenly path. A vast heavenly might filled the air. It was irresistible and unstoppable. This was Lu Ming's intuition because facing this figure was like facing the entire world. It was not that Lu Ming had never felt the majesty and pressure of a ruler, but compared to this figure, it was simply child's play. It was as if a ruler was an ant in front of this figure. Gulp. Lu Ming swallowed a mouthful of saliva and raised his head with difficulty to look at the figure. Fortunately, the supreme aura was restrained after a slight release. The figure opened his eyes and looked at Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming felt as if he had been completely seen through. "You actually managed to break through the illusion I set up. Not bad," the figure said. "Junior Lu Ming greets Senior." Lu Ming bowed. He knew that the existence above the ruler and the World Academy was most likely the figure in front of him. He was secretly shocked. It was said that the Saint Mansion's secret realm had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Could it be that the person in front of him had lived for hundreds of thousands of years? This was really unimaginable. As if seeing through Lu Ming's thoughts, the figure said, "Little guy, don't think too much. I can't have lived for so many years. What you see is just the sacred heart I left behind and a trace of my origin imprint. The real me has already fallen many years ago." Sacred heart? Lu Ming was puzzled. He didn't understand what a sacred heart was at all. "Well, it's normal that you don't understand. You're in a remote and barren island, so it's normal that you don't know. Above the ruler is the Saint Realm, also known as the Saint Realm. You've condensed a sacred heart," the figure explained casually. Saint Realm, Saint Realm. Lu Ming muttered to himself. He finally knew what the realm above the ruler realm was. Saint Realm, Saint Realm. The figure in front of him must be a Saint Realm expert. Well, little guy, you have great luck. Unfortunately, you're not an inscriber. When I was alive, I became a saint through the path of inscription. Otherwise, I could pass on my mantle to you. The figure suddenly let out a long sigh. Inscriber inheritance. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Although he wasn't an inscriber, his second body was. This time, he focused on the path of inscription and had progressed to an extremely profound realm. It would be great if his second body was here. Senior, did the others not pass the illusion? Lu Ming asked. No, they all failed. However, I won't really make things difficult for them. They've all woken up. Look! The saint waved his hand and a series of images suddenly appeared in the air. Yang Patian, Tuoba Shi, Monk Wuliang, Kong Xian, and the others were in a secret room, looking around. Sandalwood Fairy. Chapter 1091. This little girl is very talented in the path of inscription, but unfortunately, she's still a little lacking. I'll give her some benefits and hope that she can benefit from it. The saint said. Lu Ming was happy for Sandalwood Fairy. Although the saint had already fallen, he was still a saint when he was alive, an existence that surpassed the emperor's. If he said that he would give some benefits, it would definitely be no small matter. Even the emperors would be jealous. Alright, little guy, since you were able to come here and pass my test, I won't let you go back empty-handed. I'll give you some benefits and then send you out. With that, the saint waved his hand and the images disappeared without a trace. Senior, wait a minute, I might be able to inherit your mantle. Lu Ming hurriedly said. You? Haha, little guy, don't talk nonsense. I see that you don't have any spirit fire at all. How can you inherit my mantle? The saint smiled faintly, looking very calm. Senior, have you heard of the twin life restriction? Lu Ming asked. Twin life restriction? The saint frowned slightly and looked puzzled. Obviously, he had never heard of it. Senior, the twin life restriction can allow one to cultivate a second body. Lu Ming immediately told him about the twin life restriction and what he had obtained. When the saint first heard that the twin life restriction could actually allow one to cultivate a second body that was the same as the original body and could be cultivated wholeheartedly, he was extremely shocked. Even with his knowledge, he had never heard of such a strange technique in the world. Later on, when he heard that Lu Ming had obtained it in the Battle of Providence, he felt relieved. It was not strange to obtain any kind of fortuitous encounter in the Battle of Providence. This was because the saint had also participated in the Battle of Providence when he was young. There's actually such a secret technique in the world. According to what you said, not only did your second body inherit your talent, but it also has no distracting thoughts. In that case, it's really suitable for my mantle. The saint sighed and his eyes lit up. Back then, due to an accident, he was seriously injured and on the verge of death. He fled to the divine wilderness continent and found this mystic realm in order to avoid his enemies, but in the end, he still died there, leaving behind his saint heart and a wisp of imprint. The imprint was attached to the saint heart, which was why it could be preserved for so many years, but it would dissipate sooner or later. However, when an expert was about to fall, they would not wish for their life's cultivation and achievements to go up in smoke. They would want to find a suitable successor to pass on their legacy. Lu Ming was undoubtedly a suitable candidate. But senior, my second body is currently trapped in a place by an enemy. I'm afraid it won't be able to come for the time being. Lu Ming sighed. Oh? How about this? You take this disc array. As long as you give this disc array to your second body and let him activate the inscriptions on it, you can be directly transmitted here. A disc array appeared in the saint's hand and handed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He took it and thanked the saint again. Well, my name is Tian Xian. You can call me Tian Xian Saint. That's it. I'll send you out now. There's no need to open this secret realm anymore. I'll seal this secret realm forever. No one can enter. After the heavenly profound saint finished speaking, he was about to send Lu Ming and the others out. "Senior, please wait." Lu Ming blurted out. The heavenly profound saint was startled. "Allow me to disguise myself. I still have enemies outside." Lu Ming chuckled as his figure changed once again. A moment later, his figure became thinner and turned into a pale-faced young man. Even his aura changed tremendously. Now, no one could recognize him. "Done," Lu Ming said. The heavenly profound saint waved his hand, causing the space to twist. Lu Ming felt a force pulling him away, causing his figure to disappear instantly. At this moment, Sandalwood Fairy, Yang Patian, and the others outside the Saint Mansion were all enveloped by a power and disappeared. World Academy, outside the all-knowing Jade Disc. The 9 light pillars suddenly disappeared, allowing the all-knowing Jade Disc to return to its calm state. What just happened? The place was immersed in an uproar. Even the 9 Heaven Supremes were astounded. What just happened? Why did the 9 light pillars suddenly disappear? Those who went in haven't come out yet. A supremacy from a major faction said with a grim expression. Many people looked at a supremacy from the World Academy. "I don't know either. This has never happened before." The supremacy from the World Academy said solemnly. "Can you open it again?" A supremacy asked. The supremacy from the World Academy shook his head, causing an uproar among the crowd. There were many people from the various major powers within. In fact, the strongest successors of the Floating Mountain and Devil Mountain were all within as well. If they were to be trapped within, it would be an incomparably huge loss for them. However, the people from the Sky Martial Sword Sect and the Cold Blood Hall were gloating. This was because their successors had been killed by Lu Ming and they had come out long ago. The most outstanding prodigies of the previous generation had also been killed. Even if the rest of them did not come out, they would not have suffered as great a loss as the other forces. At this moment, the space above the all-knowing Jade Disc twisted as figures emerged one by one. "They're out! They're out!" Many people were overjoyed. More than 10,000 people appeared in the sky. The crowd saw Yang Patian, Sandalwood Fairy, Kong Xian, and other geniuses among them. "What's going on? How's the sacred mansion?" One by one, the supremacies asked with excitement in their eyes. Previously, when Wu Qingkong was killed, they learned about the sacred mansion from Wu Qingkong. They were all shocked but also looked forward to it. They couldn't wait to rush in themselves. An existence surpassing the Emperor realm was too tempting, especially for many supremacies. They were stuck at the supremacy level and couldn't break through to the Emperor realm. If they could obtain the inheritance or enlightenment of an existence surpassing the Emperor realm, they might be able to break through. In a flash, Sandalwood Fairy, Kong Xian, Junyu, and the others flew to their respective supremacies and told them about the situation in the sacred mansion. "What? You all failed." When they heard that Kong Xian and the other geniuses didn't pass the test, they sighed with regret. But then, they looked at Yang Patian, Tuoba Shi, and Monk Wuliang. These people had surpassed the second-tier geniuses. They were the top geniuses. Perhaps they had succeeded. "My hair, Buddha is merciful. I'm ashamed. My mind is not strong enough. I still need to train myself." Monk Wuliang had a solemn expression as he chanted the name of Buddha. His face was filled with compassion. Lu Ming among the crowd looked at him with disdain. If he hadn't seen the monk's true appearance, he would have mistaken him for an eminent monk. Monk Wuliang's words implied that he had failed too. "Damn it, that illusion is too powerful. I didn't pass it either." Tuoba Shi grinned. "Tuoba Shi, we'll fight another day," Yang Patian said coldly. Then, he stepped out and headed out of the World Academy, disappearing in an instant. No one tried to stop him. Not only was Yang Patian a peerless talent, he was also from the heaven-suppressing godly troop. Chapter 1092. It was obvious that he had failed as well. It seemed that no one had succeeded this time. No, there was one more person. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Where was Lu Shaoqing, the young genius who had killed Shueluozi and the experts of Cold Blood Hall, Wu Cong, Shuefeng and the other LV4 spirit gods, and Wu Qingkong? Why was he nowhere to be seen? Where's Lu Shaoqing? The Supremes of Cold Blood Hall and Sky Martial Sword Sect scanned the area with their sharp eyes. They spread out their spiritual senses to search for Lu Ming. Supremes, Lu Shaoqing is good at disguising himself. He can even change his aura. He must be in the crowd. Sanguinarum shouted. He had fought with Lu Shaoqing in Pill City, so he knew Lu Shaoqing's appearance and aura very well. However, Lu Shaoqing's appearance and aura were completely different when they were in the Saint Mansion's secret realm. If he had not recognized Lu Ming's devouring power, he would not have recognized Lu Ming's identity. Therefore, he knew that Lu Ming must be proficient in the art of disguise. Do you think I wouldn't be able to find you if you disguised yourself in the crowd? I'll check you one by one. A terrifying aura rose from the Sky Martial Sword Sect Supremes. His spiritual senses shrouded Lu Ming and the others who had entered the Saint Mansion's secret realm like a storm. Many people's expressions changed drastically. Lu Ming's expression also changed slightly before returning to normal. Check them one by one. How are you going to do that? Some Supremes from other forces said unhappily. Just soul search them one by one. The Sanguinarum Supremes sneered. Soul search, who do you think you are? How can I let you soul search the disciples of Floating Mountain Sect? The Supremes from Floating Mountain Sect laughed coldly. That's right, who do you think you are? How can I let you soul search the disciples of Sky Eagle Castle? If you want to capture Lu Shaoqing, think of a way yourself. The Supremes from Sky Eagle Castle sneered. Some of the Supremes from the Overlord forces looked coldly at the Supremes from Cold Blood Hall and Sky Martial Sword Sect. They were all Overlord forces, so they were not afraid of them. The Celestial Martial Sword Sect and Cold Blood Hall had suffered heavy losses because of Lu Shaoqing. Wasn't it ridiculous that he wanted to search their disciples' souls? The faces of the Supremes from Cold Blood Hall and Sky Martial Sword Sect turned ugly. The disciples of the Overlord factions may leave, but the other factions and rogue cultivators must stay behind. We will search their souls. The Supreme Being of the Celestial Martial Sword Sect pondered for a moment before speaking up. What? You want to search our souls? No, don't be so overbearing. I will never agree. This is the World Academy, not the Sky Martial Sword Sect or Cold Blood Hall. Immediately, the people from the smaller factions started shouting. Everyone had their own secrets, so how could he allow others to search his soul? Shut up. The Supreme Being of the Sky Martial Sword Sect bellowed as a boundless sword might burst forth, causing many people to gasp for breath. Overlord forces were tyrannical and tyrannical. Other than forces of the same level, other forces were just ants in their eyes. That was the truth. Once the Emperor appeared, no one dared to challenge him. Whoosh whoosh, at this moment, the wind and clouds gathered high in the sky. Endless clouds gathered to form a huge face, and boundless Emperor's aura emanated from it. The Emperor has appeared. Someone shouted. Many people's faces changed drastically. Greetings, Your Majesty. Everyone in the World Academy, be it the ordinary disciples or the Supreme Beings, bowed respectfully. Because this was the Emperor of the World Academy. The people from the other factions also hurriedly bowed. This was their respect for the Emperor. Let them go. Since we are in the World Academy must ensure everyone's safety. The Emperor said indifferently, but his voice was firm. But the Supreme Being of the Sky Martial Sword Sect wanted to say something. Say no more. Go. The Emperor interrupted him. The Supremes of the Sky Martial Sword Sect and Cold Blood Hall nodded. They had no choice but to obey the Emperor's words. Let's go. The Supreme Being of the Sky Martial Sword Sect glanced at the people from the smaller factions and the rogue cultivators, and then left with the people from the Sky Martial Sword Sect. The Supreme Being of Cold Blood Hall also left with the people from Cold Blood Hall. After that, the people from the other overlords also left. With a whoosh, the huge face in the sky disappeared without a trace. The Emperor's aura also disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared. However, the people from the smaller factions did not leave. They planned to leave through the teleportation formation of the World Academy. This was because the Sky Marshal Sword Sect and Cold Blood Hall might intercept them outside the World Academy. It was too dangerous to go out like this. The teleportation formation was the safest way. The World Academy had no reason to refuse. This was because they had to pay a large sum of spiritual crystals and primordial stones to use the teleportation formation. Lu Ming was also among the crowd. He also planned to use the teleportation formation to leave the World Academy. In the sky, Kong Xian and Sandalwood Fairy were looking around. They were probably looking for Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming did not plan to show himself. He found a random mountain and sat down cross-legged to cultivate quietly. There were too many people now. There would definitely be a queue for the teleportation formation. It would be better to leave in a few days. After the three of them left, Lu Ming set off. After paying a sum of primordial stones, Lu Ming stepped into the teleportation formation. Saint City, I'm here. Xiao Qing, how are you now? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His destination was the Saint City of the Central Continent. It was the imperial capital of the Central Continent ancient Saint Dynasty, the largest city in the world. The teleportation formation flashed and Lu Ming's figure disappeared. The Saint City of the Central Continent was the largest city in the Divine region. It was the imperial capital of the ancient Saint Dynasty. There were 8 citadels surrounding the Saint City. These 8 citadels all had teleportation formations. If an outsider wanted to enter the Saint City, they had to first teleport to the citadel and then fly to the Saint City. On this day, the teleportation formation of one of the citadels in the east flashed and Lu Ming's figure appeared. Lu Ming did not stop at the citadel. He left the citadel and soared into the sky, flying towards the Saint City. The citadel was 10 million miles away from the Saint City. However, Lu Ming's current speed was terrifying. Soon, he crossed the 10 million miles and a huge city appeared in front of him. Ancient vicissitudes of life, filled with the traces of time. This was Lu Ming's first impression of the Saint City. The huge city walls were filled with the marks of swords and sabers. It seemed to be describing the ancient history of the Saint City. The Central Continent's holy city was very large and majestic. However, it was definitely not the largest city in the Divine Wilderness continent, nor was it the top. At the very least, the 9-dragon city of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was much larger than the Holy City. However, the Saint City was still the largest city in the world. The Holy City had existed for far too long. It had left behind countless legends, and it also contained countless secrets. Moreover, there were many entrances to secret realms in the Saint City. In fact, those secret realms could be considered as a part of the Saint City. Together with those secret realms, the Saint City was terrifyingly huge. Chapter 1093. Lu Ming flew towards the Holy City and landed on a pipe. He followed the crowd and walked through the city gate. There were soldiers guarding the city gate. Lu Ming looked around and realized that these soldiers were all experts in the spirit embryo realm. After a casual check, Lu Ming entered the Holy City. Instantly, an ancient aura rushed towards him. In the Holy City, every street, palace, and house was filled with the aura of time. It was as though they had traveled through time and space from millions of years ago. What rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth! It even contains origin chi. Also, the concept of heaven and earth is very clear. The entire Holy City is like a huge array that continuously gathers the spiritual energy and origin chi of heaven and earth. Lu Ming sighed. If he cultivated here, his cultivation speed would definitely be very fast. The Holy City was divided into the outer city, inner city, and the most important palace. Ordinary martial artists, small forces, and rogue cultivators all lived in the outer city. As for the inner city, it was the residences of the powerful forces in the Holy City. For example, the residences of the ancient Saint Dynasty's princes, dukes, and ministers. Of course, the other overlords of the central continent had branches in the Holy City that were guarded all year round. As for the palace, it was where the core members of the ancient Saint Dynasty's Xia family lived. Lu Ming strolled around casually. He was now in the outer city. He was thinking about how to sneak into the palace and find out about Xianyanqing. After strolling for a while, Lu Ming walked towards a restaurant. Restaurants were the best places to gather information. After ordering a few dishes, Lu Ming sat down at a table. In another 2 months, the ancient Saint Dynasty's million-year state sacrifice will be here. The Holy City will be bustling again. That's for sure. It's a million-year state sacrifice. How important is it? Not only will the overlords of the central continent gather in the Holy City, but other forces will also send people over. Even the forces of the Western Desert, Northern Plains, Southern Underworld, and Eastern Wilderness will send people over. That's going to be bustling. It's a rare sight. When the time comes, all the geniuses will gather. It's a rare event. That's most likely the case. There are many experts in this generation. When the geniuses gather, there will be competition. Not long after Lu Ming sat down, he heard some important news. A million years of national sacrifice? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The ancient Saint Dynasty's Xia family had been established for a million years. It was truly astonishing. In the entire divine wilderness continent, which force could have such a long history? It was too shocking. Although the ancient Saint Dynasty had declined and the emperors had divided their territories, they still had to respect the ancient Saint Dynasty in name. They still had to listen to the ancient Saint Dynasty's orders. Of course, this was only in name. Therefore, the ancient Saint Dynasty's million-year national ceremony was something all the major powers had to attend, even if it was just for show. At that time, the emperors of some overlord forces might come. I'm really looking forward to it. Yes, at that time, there will definitely be many experts. I heard that the Imperial Palace has already issued an order to recruit more Imperial Dragon Guards to maintain order in the Holy City and protect the Imperial Palace. There's such a thing. When will the recruitment begin? I want to give it a try too. It has already started today and has been recruiting for the past half a month. You can go and give it a try. However, the recruitment requirements of the Emperor Dragon Guards are very high. Without the cultivation of Spirit Embryo Realm, it's impossible to enter. Lu Ming continued to listen. True enough, he heard a lot of news. Emperor Dragon Guards? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The Emperor Dragon Guards were the Imperial Guards of the ancient Saint Dynasty. They were in charge of guarding the Imperial Palace and protecting the Emperor's relatives. Wasn't he trying to sneak into the Imperial Palace? Wouldn't it be fine if he joined the Emperor Dragon Guards? However, the Emperor Dragon Guards were in charge of guarding the Imperial Palace and protecting the Emperor's relatives. Therefore, he had to investigate his identity thoroughly before he could join. Otherwise, if anyone could join, wouldn't the safety of the Emperor's relatives be in danger? Lu Ming's gaze shifted. He picked up his wine cup and walked towards a table at the side. Hello, brothers. I heard you say that you want to join the Emperor Dragon Guards, right? Lu Ming raised his cup and smiled. There were 2 burly men sitting at the table. One of them looked like he was in his 40s while the other looked like he was in his 30s with a full beard. That's right. What can I do for you, little brother? The burly man with a full beard looked at Lu Ming and asked. Little brother comes from a small power and has just entered the sacred city. I want to find a job and join the Emperor Dragon Guards. I heard the 2 of you talking about this and thought that we might be able to work together in the future. Therefore, I wanted to make friends with you. Lu Ming smiled. Hearing Lu Ming's words, the 2 of them relaxed and revealed a smile. He wants to join, so I won't go. However, little brother, the requirement to join the Emperor Dragon Guards isn't low. You need to have the cultivation of Spirit Embryo Realm. The burly man in his 40s laughed. That's great. Little brother has just broken through to Spirit Embryo Realm, so I can give it a try. As he said that, Lu Ming's body gave off a faint aura. It was the aura of the first level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Not only could illusory breath change one's aura, it could also hide one's cultivation. Now, Lu Ming had hidden his cultivation to the first level of Spirit Embryo Realm. When they found out that Lu Ming was only at the first level of Spirit Embryo Realm, the two of them were even more relieved. The burly man with a full beard said, "Little brother is so young, and to be able to reach the first level of Spirit Embryo Realm, you can be considered a prodigy. Respect. Big brothers are flattering me. Come, this meal is on me. Let's drink to our heart's content." Lu Ming said straightforwardly. How can we accept this? The burly man in his 40s laughed. This was the sacred city. Any random restaurant's food wasn't cheap. Since Lu Ming was treating, the two of them had a good impression of Lu Ming. The three of them chatted and drank. As Lu Ming had just arrived, there were many things he didn't know about the sacred city. He consulted the two of them, and the two of them told him everything they knew. Lu Ming understood that the two of them came from a small power outside the sacred city called Black Spear Sect. They weren't far from the sacred city and often came to the sacred city to purchase items. The burly man in his 40s was called Ma Wu, and the burly man in his 30s was called Ming Lu. Ming Lu, what a coincidence. If you read my name backwards, isn't that Ming Lu? Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. The three of them chatted and drank. After 3 rounds of drinking, Ma Wu and Ming Lu were drinking to their heart's content. Junior brother Ming Lu, since you want to join the Imperial Dragon Guards, you can stay here and register with little brother Lu. I'll return to the sect first and tell them about you. If you work in the Imperial Dragon Guards, it will be much more convenient for our Black Spear sect to do things. Ma Wu said. Alright, senior brother Ma, you can return first. I'll go register tomorrow. Ming Lu nodded. Immediately after, Ma Wu bade farewell and left. Lu Ming and Ming Lu found an inn nearby to stay, planning to register tomorrow. Soon, night fell. Lu Ming restrained his presence and entered Ming Lu's room silently. As soon as Ming Lu opened his mouth, Lu Ming struck out with his palm and knocked Ming Lu unconscious. He then put Ming Lu into the mountain river diagram and asked Dandan to engrave a formation, trapping him on the ground. I'm sorry, I'm borrowing your identity. There will be compensation in the future. Lu Ming mumbled. His muscles and bones began to squirm and transform into Ming Lu's appearance. Then, his presence changed and became extremely similar to Ming Lu's. I'm still missing a beard. Lu Ming smiled and walked out of the inn. He bought a fake beard and stuck it on his face. Instantly, he looked exactly like Ming Lu. Now, even if Ma Wu was beside him, he wouldn't be able to recognize that Lu Ming was an imposter. Lu Ming borrowed Ming Lu's identity to sneak into the Imperial Dragon Guards and wait for an opportunity to inquire about Xie Nianqing's whereabouts. Chapter 1094. The next morning, Lu Ming went to the registration area of the Emperor Dragon Guards. When he arrived, he got a shock. There was already a long queue at the registration area. To some people from small factions, the Emperor Dragon Guards was a good job. Joining the Emperor Dragon Guards was equivalent to joining the ancient Saint Dynasty, and they would be able to obtain more cultivation resources. Those below Spirit Embryo Realm, leave quickly. We don't need anyone below Spirit Embryo Realm. At the registration area, there were a few burly men wearing purple long robes embroidered with the picture of a flood dragon. They were the Emperor Dragon Guards. Their auras were very strong. Lu Ming swept his gaze across and realized that they were all at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm and above. There was also an elder sitting at the side with his eyes closed. He was also wearing the uniform of the Emperor Dragon Guards, but his aura was unfathomable. However, it couldn't hide from Lu Ming's senses. Lu Ming realized that this person was at the first level of Spirit God realm. Only those above Spirit Embryo realm can join. The requirement is too high. Let's go. Some people sighed and walked away while shaking their heads. Take out your identification card and report your information. We will verify it. After that, there will be a test. Because there is a limit to the number of Imperial Dragon Guards this time, there are too many people who have signed up. We can't recruit all of them. Only the strong can stay. Okay, the registration starts now. A burly man said. Then, they started to register one by one. Lu Ming waited patiently for 2 hours before it was his turn. Lu Ming moved his hand and an identity token appeared. He passed it to an Emperor Dragon Guard. This identity token was taken from Ming Lu. It was the identity token of a disciple of Black Spear Sect. Black Spear Sect, Ming Lu. Lu Ming said. The burly man checked the identity token and registered it. We will send people to verify your identity. If there is any falsehood, we will kill you on the spot. Do you understand? The burly man said with a cold gaze. Yes, I understand. Lu Ming nodded his head repeatedly. And, wait over there. There will be a test later. The burly man said. Lu Ming walked to the side and waited patiently. After another 2 hours, the registration ended. There were more than 2,000 people who had registered. Alright, come with me. At this moment, the old man at the domain Enlightened Spirit God realm stood up and spoke indifferently before he walked in with large strides. Lu Ming and the others followed behind him. Soon, they arrived at a military camp. In the middle of the military camp, there was a huge stone tablet. This stone tablet can test your cultivation base. All you need to do is infuse your true chi into the stone tablet and we will know your cultivation base. There are 2,000 people who signed up this time, but we only need 200 people. Therefore, we will only accept those whose cultivation base is in the top 200. Now, the test begins. The old man announced. After that, the applicants went up to take the test one by one. As long as he poured his true chi into the stone steel would light up, and through the light, he would be able to tell his cultivation. Starting the test one by one, Lu Ming discovered that most of them were at the first level of Spirit Embryo realm. Those at the second level of Spirit Embryo realm were much lesser and those at the third level of Spirit Embryo realm were even lesser. Soon, it was Lu Ming's turn. Just in case, I'd better input a bit more Jin Yuan. Lu Ming thought to himself. Only 200 people were accepted. To guarantee that nothing would go wrong, Lu Ming planned to input a bit more true chi. Walking to the stone tablet, Lu Ming pressed his hand on the stone tablet and poured his true chi into it. Wang! The stone tablet shook, and 7 silver lights flashed out. Enough! Lu Ming withdrew his true chi. 7 silver lights represented the cultivation of the 7th level of Spirit Embryo realm. This way, there should be nothing wrong, and he would definitely be accepted. 7th level of Spirit Embryo realm. The eyes of the old man at the Spirit God realm lit up. Those who came to sign up were usually people from small forces and their cultivation base wasn't too high. Those whose cultivation base was too high normally wouldn't join the Imperial Dragon Guards, so there weren't many who could reach the 7th level of Spirit Embryo realm. Yes, not bad. The old man at the Spirit God realm nodded. The test continued. Not long after, all the tests were completed. Lu Ming noticed that there were a total of 3 people who had reached the 7th level of Spirit Embryo realm, and only 1 person had reached the 8th level of Spirit Embryo realm. This made Lu Ming rub his nose. Was his performance too outstanding? Alright, the test is over. Those who are ranked in the top 200 can stay in the barracks for now. Wait for our news in a few days. The old man at the Spirit God realm instructed. Those who weren't ranked in the top 200 could only sigh and leave. As for Lu Ming and the others, they were led to their rooms. For the next few days, Lu Ming stayed in the barracks and cultivated while waiting for news. 3 days later, the news came that Lu Ming had been accepted and officially became a member of the Imperial Dragon Guards. The four of you are very good. I've temporarily arranged the position of deputy flag bearer for you. If you perform well in the future, it won't be a problem for you to be promoted. Also, the positions that you need to guard have been arranged. Someone will inform you in a while. After the old man at the spirit god realm finished his announcement, he gave each of them a token that represented a deputy flag bearer. The flag in the Imperial Dragon Guards had the meaning of an official position. A flag had 500 people. The main flag could command 500 Imperial Dragon Guards, and the deputy flag bearers weren't small either. This was because their cultivations were profound. No matter where they were, strength represented everything. Not long after, someone delivered the robes that represented the Imperial Dragon Guards to Lu Ming and also delivered the news of the positions that they needed to guard. Naturally, the four deputy flags were separated from each other. The guards of the 8th Prince. Lu Ming's gaze moved. His temporary duty was to be the 8th Prince's guard. This made Lu Ming's eyes slightly strange. Because according to what he knew, wasn't the 8th Prince Xie Zhen? Wasn't it Xie Zhen who had gone to Nine Dragon City and taken away Xie Nianqing? What a coincidence! I can inquire about Shaoqing from Xie Zhen. The corner of Lu Ming's mouth rose into a smile. Of the 200 people that had joined together, there were still 30 people that were with Lu Ming. They were all the 8th Prince's guards. Not long after, a skinny man in his 40s came and stood in front of Lu Ming and the others. I'm your general. My name is Shi Fang. In the future, you will follow me. Now, follow me to the 8th Prince's mansion. The skinny man's gaze swept over them, especially stopping on Lu Ming's body. A cold light flashed in his eyes. This Shi Fang seems to be hostile to me, but this is the first time I've seen him. Strange. Lu Ming slightly frowned as he thought to himself. The 8th Prince's mansion was very spacious in the inner city. It was like a villa with a radius of 100 miles. The Imperial Dragon Guards couldn't directly enter the 8th Prince's mansion. They had to live in a military camp outside the mansion. In the military camp outside the 8th Prince's mansion, Lu Ming and the others gathered. Shi Fang stood on a high platform, looking down at them with a cold expression. I'll tell you some things now. The first thing to do in the Imperial Dragon Guards is to obey orders and protect the safety of the Imperial family with your life. Also, I'll tell you that there are many experts in the Imperial Dragon Guards. Some of you shouldn't be complacent just because you have some strength. There are many experts in the Imperial Dragon Guards who are stronger than you. Any one of them can suppress you. Do you understand? Chapter 1095. Lu Ming frowned. He always felt that Shi Fang's words were targeted at him. However, he had never seen Shi Fang before, so why was Shi Fang always targeting him? Could it be that this Ming Lu had offended Shi Fang in the past? Lu Ming thought to himself. After Shi Fang finished speaking, he turned around and left. After that, someone arranged a place for them to stay. Lu Ming was the vice banner and had a small courtyard. There was also another person who stayed in Lu Ming's courtyard to help Lu Ming out. This person was also a newly joined Imperial Dragon Guard and looked to be around 50 years old. He looked rather shrewd and was called Sun Lin. Lord Vice Banner, you have to be careful. Arriving at the courtyard, Sun Lin reminded him. Oh? What do you mean? Lu Ming asked. Lord Vice Banner should be able to feel that when Commander Shi spoke, a lot of his words were actually for you. Sun Lin said. Oh? Could it be that you know why? Lu Ming asked. He was also very curious. Lord Vice Banner has just arrived, so you probably don't know the rules of the Imperial Dragon Guard. In the Imperial Dragon Guard, everything is based on strength. Those who are strong can continue to rise as long as they make contributions. Lord Vice Banner, your cultivation is at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, while Commander Shi Fang's cultivation is only at the 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Your cultivation is higher than his. Hearing until here, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. What you mean is that Shifang is worried that I will threaten his position. Lord Vice Banner is wise. The reason why Shifang can have the position of commander is because he has an elder brother who is the personal guard of His Highness the 8th Prince. That's why he can become the position of commander, commanding 500 Imperial Dragon Guards. Furthermore, the highest level of people in this banner was only at the 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Therefore, Shifang has a very stable position as the commander. However, Lord Vice Banner's cultivation is higher than his, so as long as Lord Vice Banner makes some contributions, surpassing Shifang or even replacing him would be very normal. Therefore, Shifang naturally wouldn't be nice to Lord Vice Banner and might even do something secretly. Sun Lin explained. Lu Ming smiled. So that's how it was. However, he didn't take it to heart. He could suppress a mere Shifang with a single finger, so there was no need to take it to heart. After chatting for a while, Lu Ming walked into the room and sat down cross-legged, beginning to comprehend the concept of heaven and earth. Previously, in the Saint Mansion's secret realm, Lu Ming had devoured many intent realm runes. Not only had he made a breakthrough in his cultivation, but his intent of heaven and earth had also improved. His thunder concept and wind concept had both broken through to the lower level of the 4th level. Including his fire concept, he now had 3 other concepts that had reached the lower level of the 4th level. Now, he was fully focused on comprehending the earth concept and water concept. Nothing much happened in the first 2 days. The Imperial Dragon Guards were usually very idle when they had nothing to do. After all, they were all warriors. They didn't need to patrol like ordinary people. When they had nothing to do, they just needed to cultivate in peace. They would only be mobilized when something happened. On the evening of the 3rd day, Lu Ming heard some movement outside. He ended his cultivation, opened the door, and walked out. There were 2 people in the courtyard. One was Sun Lin, and the other was a middle-aged man who looked like a skinny monkey. At this moment, Sun Lin took out a storage ring with an ugly expression and handed it to the skinny middle-aged man. The skinny middle-aged man took the storage ring. When he saw Lu Ming, he chuckled and walked over. "You're Ming Lu." "That's right." Lu Ming said. "I was just about to look for you. Since you've joined the Imperial Dragon Guards, Commander Shifang will take care of you in the future and let you maximize your benefits and live a good life. However, Commander Shifang can't do it for free. You have to show some appreciation. Do you understand?" The skinny middle-aged man stretched out his hand and pinched his fingers. Lu Ming's lips curled up. He understood that the skinny middle-aged man was sent by Shifang to collect benefits. Needless to say, every new person who joined would be patronized. How greedy. "Tell me, how much do you want?" Lu Ming said. "You're the deputy commander. The higher your position, the more you have to pay. For the others, 50,000 origin stones, you can give me 200,000 origin stones." The skinny middle-aged man chuckled. 50,000? 200,000? The smile on the corner of Lu Ming's lips became even wider. How ruthless. For a normal person, 50,000 origin stones was definitely a huge burden for a normal Spirit Embryo Realm martial arts practitioner. Yet for him, the skinny middle-aged man wanted 200,000. This was 200,000 origin stones, and it wasn't a small sum. Even a normal Spirit Embryo Realm martial artist would find it hard to take it out. It was completely an exorbitant demand. "It's a pity that I don't have so many origin stones. Please return." Lu Ming said indifferently. "You don't have it? Don't try to trick me. You're a martial arts practitioner at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. How can you not have 200,000 origin stones with all your assets?" The skinny middle-aged man sneered. "Oh? Even if I have 200,000 origin stones with all my assets, what will I use to cultivate if I give it all to you?" Lu Ming said. "I don't care about this. This is your problem. If you can't take it out, it's best you get out of the Imperial Dragon Guards. Otherwise, without the protection of Commander, you won't even know how you died." The skinny middle-aged man's face darkened as he threatened. "Huh." Lu Ming was so angry that he laughed. "If I need Shifang's protection, how can a martial artist at the 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm protect me? What a joke. Alright, get out of here immediately. Otherwise, I'll throw you out." Audacious. How dare you mock Commander, you're simply audacious. You're courting death. The skinny middle-aged man shouted. Scram! Lu Ming suddenly shouted angrily and took a step forward. A terrifying aura burst forth and pressed down on the skinny middle-aged man. The skinny middle-aged man trembled as if he was struck by lightning. He retreated a few steps back and spat out a mouthful of blood. "You with the surname Ming, just you wait. You're dead meat." The skinny middle-aged man staggered out with a face full of resentment. In a blink of an eye, he had disappeared. "Commander, if you offend him like this, I'm afraid Shifang will be here soon." Sigh. Sun Lin sighed and was slightly worried. "He's just a clown, what's there to be afraid of?" Lu Ming said casually. "Shifang is nothing. But his older brother is the personal guard of the 8th Prince, an expert at the 1st level of the Spirit God realm." Sun Lin spoke while a trace of terror appeared in his eyes. If a Spirit God realm expert wanted to slap them to death, then it would be no different than slapping an ant to death. "Oh." Lu Ming spoke indifferently with a calm expression, and then he casually sat down on a stone bench in the courtyard as if nothing had happened. Sun Lin was filled with worry at the side. After a short while, bang! The door to the courtyard was blasted open, and then Shifang walked in with a few of his trusted aides with a gloomy expression. "Ming Lu, you injured another Imperial Dragon Guard for no reason or rhyme. I suspect that you have ulterior motives. Kneel down obediently and receive your punishment." Shifang shouted loudly and directly pushed the crime onto Lu Ming. Lu Ming glanced indifferently at Shifang and said, "What an idiot. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to fuck off right now." How audacious. You dared to go against your superior. Your crime is even worse. Your cultivation should be crippled and you're expelled from the Imperial Dragon Guard. Shifang shouted loudly. "Haha, Shifang, feel free to give it a try." Chapter 1096. "Humph, you still dare to resist?" Shifang said solemnly. He didn't believe that Lu Ming would dare to resist. He, Shifang's elder brother, was a strong practitioner at the 1st level of Spirit God and the personal bodyguard of the 8th Prince. If Lu Ming dared to make a move on him, he would be courting death. Furthermore, he had learned a rather powerful martial technique from his elder brother and his innate talent was not bad. Even if Lu Ming's cultivation was 1 level higher than his, he wouldn't be afraid if they really fought. Lu Ming didn't answer Shifang and instead stood up and walked towards Shifang. 3 breaths have passed. Looks like I can only personally throw you out. Audacious, you really dare to make a move on me. Everyone, let's attack together and suppress this person. Shifang shouted angrily and the aura on his body burst forth as he charged towards Lu Ming. Besides Shifang, the other 3 people also made their move. Their aura burst forth and they were actually all at the 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. These people were the strongest in this banner. Usually, they would follow Shifang's lead. The 4 of them working together wasn't weak, but in Lu Ming's eyes, it was no different from children playing house. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming kicked out. The instant this kick was kicked out, it turned into 4 shadows of legs. Bang! 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 All the attacks of Shifang and the other 3 turned into bubbles and shadows under Lu Ming's legs. The soles of Lu Ming's feet directly imprinted on their faces. 4 miserable shrieks rang out as Shifang and the other 3 flew out of the courtyard like 4 cannonballs. Their miserable shrieks rang out in the night sky and became further and further away. No one knew how far they had flown. On the field, there was still that skinny monkey-like middle-aged man who hadn't left. At this moment, his eyeballs were almost popping out and his body was trembling non-stop. His face was pale from fright. He didn't think that Lu Ming would be so daring to even hit Shifang. Most importantly, he did not expect that not only did Lu Ming dare to fight, but his combat strength was also so strong that he sent Shifang and the others flying with a single kick. Even though Lu Ming's cultivation was one level higher than Shifang and the other three, Shifang had 4 people and yet they didn't even have the slightest bit of resistance. It could be seen that Lu Ming's battle power was much stronger than normal 7th level Spirit Embryo Realm practitioners. At this moment, he looked at Lu Ming in horror. "Scram!" Lu Ming berated. Yes, I'll leave right now." The middle-aged man turned around and was about to leave. "I told you to scram, not leave," Lu Ming said coldly. The skinny middle-aged man's face was pale. "Looks like I have to do it myself." Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. "No." The skinny middle-aged man was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He could only lie on the ground in humiliation and roll out of the courtyard. Then, he got up and ran away. Deputy Flag Lord, I'm afraid that Shifang will not let this matter rest after offending him like this. Sun Lin was full of worry. He wasn't worried for Lu Ming. He was afraid that he would be implicated by Lu Ming. "What are you afraid of?" Lu Ming said casually and returned to his room to cultivate. With a wave of his hand, numerous bottles, jars, jade boxes, and metal chests appeared in the room. There were over 100 of them and they were all obtained from the Sacred Manor in the Sacred Manor's secret realm. Lu Ming didn't check them previously and now was the perfect time to check them out. These are spirit refinement pills. Lu Ming looked at those jade bottles and was elated. Those jade bottles were actually spirit refinement pills. Spirit refinement pills were refined using the spirit refinement fruit as the main ingredient. If one spirit embryo was perfected and consumed it frequently, it could greatly increase the chances of breaking through to Spirit God. If Spirit God strong practitioners consumed it, they could condense their Spirit God and strengthen their spiritual consciousness. There were over a dozen jade bottles here and they were all filled with spirit refinement pills. Every jade bottle had 9 pills. There were at least a few hundred spirit refinement pills here. He had struck it rich. Following that, Lu Ming looked at other things. Many of the other things were pills and they were all very precious pills. Most of them weren't inferior to spirit refinement pills. There were also all kinds of materials that were very precious. Lu Ming couldn't name many of them. Lu Ming kept them one by one. Finally, with a thought, a small fiery red pagoda appeared. Emperor-level spirit weapon. Once the small fiery red pagoda appeared, it trembled slightly as though it was about to leave. However, Lu Ming's vital essence spread out and enveloped the small pagoda. Emperor-level spirit weapon, if I refine it, it will definitely increase my strength. However, it won't be that easy to refine it. Furthermore, with my current cultivation, even if I refine it, I won't be able to unleash much of its power. It's better to refine it properly another day when I'm free. Thinking until here, Lu Ming put away the small pagoda again. He then took out spirit refinement pills and refined them to condense his spirit god. Time slowly passed. Tonight, there was no movement. On the second day, there was also no movement. On the second night, Lu Ming made his move. He asked Dandan to inscribe a formation to restrain his aura. His body was like a ghost as he tore through the void and headed towards the 8th Prince Xiezhen's mansion. Lu Ming planned to enter Xiezhen's mansion to see if he could find out some information about Xian Yanqing. Of course, the 8th Prince's mansion was guarded by the Imperial Dragon Guards. However, given Lu Ming's current cultivation level and the array formation that Dandan had set up to conceal his aura, the Imperial Dragon Guards could not discover him at all. The 8th Prince's mansion was very big. There were many palaces and pavilions. The area was very wide. Lu Ming spread out his spiritual sense and looked around. After a while, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. His figure moved and appeared above a palace. As his spiritual sense swept out, the situation below the palace was directly imprinted in his mind. It was clearer than seeing with his eyes. This was the wonder of spiritual sense. In a room below the palace, two figures were discussing something. One of them was Shifang, and the other person was over 50 years old. He had a robust figure and a rather dignified appearance. "Big brother, you must take revenge from me. That new vice flag master was actually so arrogant and even dared to hit me. He clearly didn't give Big Brother any face." Shifang complained tearfully. This robust man over 50 years old was the 8th Prince's personal guard, an expert at the first level of the domain Enlightened Spirit God realm. However, Lu Ming's current cultivation had attained the 2nd level of the domain Enlightened Spirit God realm. How formidable was the domain Enlightened Spirit God realm that he cultivated? His spiritual sense was formidable, so how could it be noticed by his opponent? "Alright, I understand. This Ming Lu is truly audacious. However, I'm at the domain Enlightened Spirit God realm and the 8th Prince's personal guard. If I were to make a move against him directly, then I would probably be criticized by others. How about this? I have a method to eliminate him." When he spoke up to hear, Shifang's older brother started to send a voice transmission, and Lu Ming was unable to hear the rest of it. "Huh. Let me see how all of you eliminate me." Lu Ming sneered, and then his figure flashed and left this place to look for the 8th Prince's residence. It wasn't long before Lu Ming finally found the 8th Prince in the depths of the estate. The 8th Prince really is Xie Zhen. After not seeing him for a few years, Xie Zhen has matured slightly, and his cultivation has become much stronger as well. At this moment, Xie Zhen was sitting high up in a great hall. Below him, a few people were kneeling there, reporting to him about some matters. Bang! Xie Zhen suddenly slapped the table heavily and shouted coldly. "What? They failed again. What a bunch of trash." 8th Prince, even though 16th Princess is in the 9th hell, her natural talent is truly too formidable, and the advancement of her cultivation is too terrifying. All the people we sent were killed by her. Chapter 1097. 16th Princess. Is it Xiaoqing? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes were suddenly filled with cold killing intent. Listening to the conversation just now, Xie Nianqing was in the 9 Nether Devil domain, and Xie Zhen had sent people to kill him. Damn it! At this moment, Lu Ming's killing intent was extremely strong. But in his heart, he felt relieved. At least, Xie Nianqing was fine and alive. I really don't know what father is thinking. She's a different species, a bitch born from a lowly servant. Father actually didn't kill her directly or suppress her in the 9 Underworld Demon domain, but only imprisoned her in the 9 Underworld Demon domain and let her fight with the demons. She's really let off easy. Xie Zhen's face was gloomy, and his voice was cold. 8th Prince, what should we do next? One of them asked. That bitch hates me to the bone. If I let her live, I will never be able to rest easy. Xie Zhen said coldly. 8th Prince, in my opinion, you don't have to worry too much. His Majesty didn't kill her most likely because of their father-daughter relationship. But 16th Princess is a different species, and she is a taboo of our Saint Emperor clan. Even if His Majesty doesn't kill her, he won't let her out of the 9 Underworld Demon domain. She will most likely spend her life in the 9 Underworld Demon domain. Someone below said. Even so, that bitch's talent is too high. As long as she's alive, I won't be able to rest easy. Xie Zhen said with a gloomy face. 8th Prince, should we continue to send people? Let's talk about it later. In less than 2 months, it will be the 1,000,000-year national sacrificial ceremony. During this period, Father will not continue to cultivate in seclusion. He is very concerned about the big and small matters. It's not a good time to take action. After the ceremony, we will send experts into the 9 Underworld Demon domain and kill her in one fell swoop. Xie Zhen's eyes were gloomy. Creak. Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly, and he almost lost control of his killing intent. Who is it? But only a little bit was leaked, and it was sensed by an expert. Whoosh! Lu Ming's figure flickered, and he left the place. In the blink of an eye, he appeared 100 miles away and returned to the dormitory. He really wanted to slap Xie Zhen to death, but he knew that now was not the right time. He still had to find a way to find the entrance to the 9 underworlds and save Xian Yanqing. If he killed Xie Zhen now, he would definitely alert the enemy. Right now, he could only let Xie Zhen live for a while longer. However, Lu Ming swore that he would kill Xie Zhen sooner or later. In the following days, Lu Ming would take some time to wander around the 9 underworlds, trying his best to gather information about the 9 underworlds. Unfortunately, he got nothing. It seemed that very few people knew about the 9 underworlds. Lu Ming speculated that the demon realm of the 9 serenities was probably a realm, and the entrance to it was probably somewhere in the imperial palace. As for Lu Ming, other than going out to inquire about things, he would refine the spirit refining pills and comprehend concepts. The soul refining pill couldn't directly improve Lu Ming's cultivation, but it could make his spiritual spirit more and more condensed, and his spiritual sense more and more powerful. The more powerful his spiritual spirit was, the more helpful it would be for his future cultivation. 3 days later, while Lu Ming was cultivating, Shifang came again. Lu Ming walked out of his room, looked at Shifang indifferently and said, "What's wrong? You want to get beaten again?" Humph. Shifang's face turned ugly. He coldly snorted and said, "I'm here to inform you that there's a mission. The 8th prince wants to go hunting in the Bestial Mountain. We need to go together. Let's go." Okay. Lu Ming smiled and walked out in big strides. Shifang looked at Lu Ming's back, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a cold smile. The Imperial Dragon Guards gathered and followed Xie Zhen to the Bestial Mountain. The Bestial Mountain was a boundless mountain range, where countless fierce beasts lived. It was a hunting ground for the Xie family's disciples to train their cultivation. The Xie family's disciples would often come to the Bestial Mountain to hunt. In fact, they would enter the Bestial Mountain and fight with fierce beasts. Outside the Bestial Mountain, there was a huge military camp with living quarters and guards. Shifang, you will lead the Imperial Dragon Guards and follow me into the mountain, but you don't need to protect me. You guys will hunt separately and see who can kill more fierce beasts. What do you think? Looking at the Bestial Mountain, Xie Zhen was in high spirits. 8th Prince, how can we be compared to you? Shifang revealed a flattering smile. Don't worry, there are also experts in the Imperial Dragon Guards. Try your best to compete with the Half-Prince. Those who perform well will be rewarded. Xie Zhen smiled. Okay, I'll bring them along. Shifang bowed again and again. Then let's go. Xie Zhen waved his hand and flew towards the Bestial Mountain. Shifang and the others also flew towards the Bestial Mountain. Could it be that they want to kill me in the Bestial Mountain? Lu Ming thought in his heart. He guessed that Shifang's elder brother might attack him in the Bestial Mountain. Lu Ming's mouth curved into a cold smile. If the other party wanted to die, he wouldn't mind sending him on his way. After flying into the Bestial Mountain, the group dispersed. Lu Ming was bored as he flew towards the depths of the Bestial Mountain. The level of the beasts in the periphery of Beast Cry Mountain was very low. There were some king-level and spirit sea-level beasts. As long as Lu Ming glared at them, these beasts would disappear without a trace. After flying for half an hour, no one made a move. Still not making a move? Lu Ming muttered. He sat cross-legged on a huge rock and waited. Even after 2 hours, no one made a move against him. Seems like I guessed wrong. They won't make a move here. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He was a little surprised. Forget it, I guess Xie Zhen's hunt is about to end. I'll just kill a few beasts to deal with it. Lu Ming's figure flashed and soared into the sky. Caw! Caw! After a while, cries could be heard as a flock of silver eagles flew past. The moment they saw Lu Ming, over 10 of them charged towards Lu Ming. "It's you guys!" Lu Ming flicked his finger and long spears condensed out, shooting towards the silver eagles. Puff puff, 5 of the silver eagles were pierced by the spear light. The remaining eagles were frightened as they cried out and fled. Lu Ming didn't give chase. He swept the 5 eagles up with his true essence and flew back to the army camp. These 5 eagles were equivalent to the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, which was more or less enough. In the army camp, Xie Zhen and the rest had already returned. On the ground of the army camp, there were beasts of all shapes and sizes. 8th Prince is truly powerful, to actually be able to hunt down 3 fierce beasts at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm and 3 fierce beasts at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm in just a few hours. 8th Prince is indeed a genius. This little one is impressed. Shi Fang stood in front of Xie Zhen and started to flatter him. "This is nothing. As long as you guys cultivate properly, you can do it too," Xie Zhen said modestly. However, the complacency on his face couldn't be concealed. His cultivation was at the 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. To be able to hunt down 3 fierce beasts at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm and 3 at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm in less than 3 hours in the vast Beast Cry Mountain was already considered a pretty good achievement. Chapter 1098. With a casual throw, he threw the 5 huge eagles onto the ground, causing the ground to tremble slightly. These are silver eagles. All 5 of them are silver eagles, so powerful. Furthermore, all 5 of them are silver eagles at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Deputy Flag Ming's abilities are actually so strong, to be able to hunt 5 silver eagles at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm in less than 3 hours, truly astonishing. The moment Lu Ming returned, it caused a wave of exclamations as the Emperor Dragon Guards started discussing spiritedly. Even though Lu Ming had only hunted 5 demonic beasts, they were all at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. In terms of value, he had already surpassed Xie Zhen. This caused Xie Zhen's face to turn slightly gloomy. Besides Xie Zhen, Shi Fang's big brother gave a cold smile. "Deputy Flag Shi Fang, who is this?" Xie Zhen asked. "8th Prince, this is the new Deputy Flag. His name is Ming Lu and his cultivation is at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm." Shi Fang replied. "Oh, so it's the new Deputy Flag." Xie Zhen glanced at Lu Ming. When he saw that Lu Ming merely cupped his fists at him casually without any hint of respect, he felt even more displeased. Xie Zhen walked towards Lu Ming in large strides and said, "Deputy Flag Ming's battle power is astonishing, this prince admires you. Deputy Flag Ming, this prince is itching for a fight, how about you spar with this prince?" "Spar?" The corner of Lu Ming's mouth raised slightly. "That's right, spar with me. Use your full strength and don't hold back. Don't worry, you won't be able to hurt this prince." Bang! As Xie Zhen spoke, he slowly walked forward and his body gave off an intense golden glow as his aura flourished. He had awakened the bloodline of the 5th level of God grade and his battle power was very strong. Normal martial artists at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm weren't his match, therefore, he was filled with confidence. At the side, the others scattered far away. Shi Fang and his big brother looked at each other in the eyes and sneered. "Make your move." Boom! Xie Zhen threw a punch towards Lu Ming. The golden fist aura whistled through heaven and earth as it attacked Lu Ming. A long spear condensed in Lu Ming's hand. Ming Lu came from Black Spear sect and used a long spear. Whoosh! The long spear trembled, the tip of the spear trembled, stirring up the wind and clouds as it pierced towards Xie Zhen's fist. Bang! Xie Zhen's fist light was penetrated by the long spear and collapsed. Xie Zhen's gaze sharpened as a trace of killing intent flashed across his eyes. Boom! Boom! Following that, the golden light on Xie Zhen's body grew even brighter as he punched out unceasingly. Boundless golden light surged and enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming's long spear trembled, and spear flowers bloomed in the air. Bang! Bang! Intense collisions rang out, and the fist radiance and spear radiance disappeared without a trace. Back then in Nine Dragon City, Xia Zhen's cultivation was at the peak of the 7th level of the Spirit Sea realm. Now that 3 years had passed and Xia Zhen was in the ancient Saint dynasty, he definitely had plenty of resources. His cultivation had risen to the 6th level of the Spirit Embryo realm and his battle prowess was indeed not bad. Ordinary martial artists at the 8th level of the Spirit Embryo realm weren't his match and would be killed by him. However, he was facing Lu Ming, and Lu Ming was already doing his best to suppress his own power. After dozens of moves, he still couldn't take down Lu Ming. Xia Zhen's eyes flashed with killing intent. Above his head, a tall burly man in golden armor appeared. He was 100 meters tall and held a long spear in his hand. 5 golden chakras shone brightly, making him look like a god. Xia Zhen turned into a ray of light and entered the body of the burly man in golden armor. Kill! The burly man in golden armor shouted as the golden long spear in his hand emitted a dazzling radiance and pierced towards Lu Ming. The huge long spear brought along a terrifying whistling sound, and its power was extremely shocking. What a strong killing intent! He wants to kill me. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a trace of cold light. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried about alerting the enemy, Lu Ming would have killed Xia Zhen right away. Boom! Lu Ming took a step forward and soared into the sky. The spear radiance condensed in his hand grew rapidly, becoming 100 meters long and 10 meters wide. He swept the spear towards the burly man in golden armor. Boom! The 2 long spears collided, and the entire barracks shook. The burly man in golden armor's body shook violently as he was blasted back repeatedly by Lu Ming's spear. Swoosh! Lu Ming charged over directly, and the huge long spear smashed down fiercely with the force of splitting a mountain. Boom! The long spear smashed heavily onto the burly man in golden armor, causing his body to shake violently and almost fall to the ground. After that, Lu Ming's spear changed into a horizontal sweep, and it smashed heavily onto the burly man in golden armor. The burly man in golden armor let out a shrill cry as his body directly collapsed and transformed back into Xia Zhen's appearance. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he retreated. How audacious! You dare injure the 8th prince? You're courting death. Bang! Shifang's older brother, Shizheng, took a step forward and appeared before Lu Ming. His aura at the 1st level of the domain enlightened spirit god realm erupted with a bang, and a terrifying pressure suffused the sky above the barracks. The expressions of many people changed drastically because the pressure of the domain enlightened spirit god realm was truly too strong, causing many people to tremble and break out in cold sweat. However, Lu Ming was like a cool breeze and didn't feel anything at all. He glanced casually at Shizheng and said, "The 8th prince asked me to use my full strength just now, and I was merely obeying the 8th prince's orders. You still dare to quibble? The 8th prince's body is extremely precious, and he's extremely respected. You actually dared to injure him. You've offended your superior and have no sense of seniority. You simply deserve death for your crimes. I'll cripple you right now and lock you in prison to properly reflect on your actions." Shizheng's gaze was gloomy while a trace of a complacent cold smile hung on the corners of his mouth. The nearby Shifang was even more complacent, and he glared fiercely at Lu Ming. On the other hand, Xia Zhen's expression was gloomy and unsightly, yet he didn't stop Shizheng. Just as Shizheng had said, Lu Ming had actually dared to injure him, and he simply deserved death for his crimes. Ha ha ha. Truly laughable. The 8th prince personally gave the order for me to attack with my full strength, and I was merely obeying the order and exerting my full strength, causing me to accidentally injure the 8th prince. Yet you made a move against me because of this. Do you think the 8th prince's orders are nonsense? Would anyone listen to him in the future? Lu Ming roared with laughter and wasn't afraid in the slightest. He finally understood now that all of this was a trap set up by Shizheng. Shizheng understood Xia Zhen very well and knew that Xia Zhen was narrow-minded. If Lu Ming were to compete with Xia Zhen and win or even injure Xia Zhen, then only death would await Lu Ming. That was why today's matter happened. Even if Lu Ming's kills didn't surpass Xie Zhen's, Shi Zheng would still find a way to let the 8th prince and Lu Ming exchange pointers. But today, everything went smoother than Shi Zheng had imagined. Lu Ming's kills actually surpassed Xie Zhen's, which made Xie Zhen unhappy with Lu Ming. He directly challenged Lu Ming to a battle, and there was no better result than this. Before the battle began, Xie Zhen already had the intention to kill Lu Ming. If Lu Ming's battle strength wasn't enough and he wasn't Xie Zhen's opponent, then Xie Zhen would most likely kill him on the spot. But if Lu Ming's cultivation was stronger than Xie Zhen's, then Xie Zhen's killing intent would definitely be heavier, and Lu Ming would also be on the road to death. Therefore, whether Lu Ming won or lost, his death was certain. Bold, presumptuous, who do you think you are? You are insulting the 8th prince, and you deserve 9 exterminations. Shi Fang shouted from the side. And the killing intent in Xie Zhen's eyes was even thicker. A lowly ant actually dared to insult him, he deserved to die 10,000 times. Boom! Chapter 1099. Looks like I can't use this identity. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He planned to kill Shi Zheng, Shi Fang, and Xie Zhen together. Right at that moment, haha, 8th brother, what's the matter? Why is it so lively? A loud laugh sounded. Then, a roar came from the sky. It seemed like a huge army was running towards them. There were about a few hundred cavalrymen, and each of them was riding a fiery red warhorse. These warhorses were covered in fiery red scales, and there were 2 dragon horns on their heads. Flames danced all over their bodies, and they looked extraordinarily mighty. It was a dragon horse. Legend had it that it had the bloodline of a true dragon. The powerful dragon horse was not weaker than a Wyrm. The few hundred cavalrymen were all riding on dragon horses. The leader was a young man. He was tall and slender. He wore fiery red armor and fiery boots. His hair was loose, and his eyes were like lightning. His aura was powerful. 10th Prince. Many people exclaimed. Rumble. The dragon horse stepped into the air and appeared in the sky above the camp. Greetings, 10th Prince. Shi Zheng, Shi Fang, and the others hurriedly knelt in front of the 10th Prince. Their eyes were filled with reverence. 10th brother, why are you here? Xie Zhen's face was a little ugly. There was a trace of jealousy and reverence in the depths of his eyes as he looked at the young man in front of him. The 10th Prince, Xie Yan, was a peerless genius. He was one of the best amongst all the children of the current sacred emperor, and he was a second-rate genius whose name shook the central continent. His cultivation was formidable, and he'd even stepped foot into the domain spirit god realm now. His status in the ancient Saint dynasty wasn't something that Xie Zhen could compare to at all. In the imperial family, Xie Yan was second only to Xie Nianjuan. 8th brother, you can hunt, but I can't. What are you doing? It seems like you want to attack one of your subordinates. What's going on? Tell me. The 10th Prince, Xie Yan, pointed at one of the imperial dragon guards and ordered. His tone was arrogant and indisputable. The imperial dragon guard did not dare to be negligent, nor did he dare to hide anything. He recounted everything that had happened. Huh, so that's how it is. 8th brother, you are getting worse and worse. You can't even defeat a deputy flag of the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. But it's fine if you can't defeat him, but you said you would kill him after you lost. If this matter were to spread out, wouldn't our Saint Emperor clan become a joke? Xie Yan said indifferently. Huh, 10th brother, you've misunderstood. I didn't mean to kill him. Just now, bodyguard Shi Zheng saw that I was injured and was worried. That's why he stood in front of me. Everything is a misunderstanding. Xie Zhen's expression fluctuated for a while before he revealed an ugly smile. Really? So it was all a misunderstanding. However, this Vice Flag Commander's combat strength is not bad. He is only 1 level higher than 8th brother, but he can easily crush 8th brother. He is a talent. Xia Yan smiled. Xia Zhen clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked. He was simply furious. Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself down and revealed a smile. That's right. This Vice Flag Commander Ming Lu's combat strength is indeed not bad. Therefore, I plan to transfer him to the law enforcement army. Coincidentally, the million-year national sacrifice is about to begin. When that time comes, the sacred city will definitely be in chaos. The law enforcement army is in need of manpower. When he said that, Shi Fang and Shi Zheng's eyes lit up and revealed a cold smile. As for the others, they looked at Lu Ming with pity. Lu Ming's heart moved. What was the meaning of these gazes? He is eighth brother's man. You can arrange him however you want. Let's go. Xia Yan smiled and led the 400 cavalrymen towards Beast Cry Mountain. After Xia Yan left, Xia Zhen's expression turned gloomy. He swept a cold glance at Lu Ming and said, Vice Flag Commander Ming, go back and wait. The order will be given soon. You shall go to the law enforcement army and be a commander. With your combat strength, it's about time. When Xia Zhen said that, the expressions of the others became even weirder. They looked at Lu Ming with even more pity. And you will be transferred to the law enforcement army with him. Then, Xia Zhen pointed at Sun Lin. Plop! Sun Lin's expression changed drastically. Then, he knelt down with a thud and kowtowed as he screamed, No, eighth prince, I beg you. No, don't transfer me to the law enforcement army. I only live with him. I don't know him. You want to disobey this prince's order? Xia Zhen's eyes turned cold. Sun Lin's face turned pale and he stood there in a daze. Let's go. Xia Zhen soared into the air and returned to his residence. The others quickly followed. Sigh, Ming Lu, I'm going to die because of you. Sun Lin let out a long sigh with a bitter expression. What's going on? Why don't you want to join the law enforcement army? The law enforcement army, from the name, it should have a lot of power. Lu Ming asked curiously. Many sects had their own law enforcement hall. The law enforcement hall had a lot of power. They enforced the law on behalf of the sect and were respected by everyone. Why did Sun Lin seem to be afraid of joining the law enforcement army? When the others heard that Xia Zhen wanted to transfer Lu Ming to the law enforcement army, they all looked at him with pity. Sigh. You might not know this, but the law enforcement army does have a lot of power. However, that power is useless now. Sun Lin sighed and continued to explain, the law enforcement army is the law enforcement organization of the ancient Saint dynasty. They are responsible for enforcing the law in the holy city and maintaining the security of the holy city. No matter who you are, no matter which force you are from, the law enforcement army will be dispatched to enforce the law if you commit a crime in the holy city. Lu Ming nodded his head. Isn't that a lot of power? If it was 30,000 years ago when the ancient Saint dynasty ruled the world, everyone would be afraid of the law enforcement army. They had great power and anyone who committed a crime would be suppressed or even killed on the spot. At that time, everyone wanted to join the law enforcement army. As long as you joined the law enforcement army, everyone would be afraid of you. But now, the ancient Saint dynasty is weak and the emperors are divided. Each of them is powerful and the position of the law enforcement army is very awkward. For example, if the disciples of the major forces commit a crime, should the law enforcement army take action or not? If they don't take action, the law enforcement army represents the reputation of the ancient Saint dynasty. In that case, the imperial family might blame them because it would be a disgrace to the imperial family. However, if they take action, the experts of the major forces would put pressure on the imperial family. Under the pressure, the imperial family would usually hand over the law enforcement army to appease the other party's anger. In that case, who would be willing to go to the law enforcement army? Sun Lin explained. Lu Ming had a sudden realization. He finally understood. The main reason was that the ancient Saint dynasty was weak and they did not dare to offend the major forces. If that was the case, the power of the law enforcement army would be rendered useless. If they didn't do anything, they would be throwing the face of the ancient Saint dynasty. If they did something, the people from the major factions would be able to pressure the law enforcement army. The law enforcement army would then become the scapegoat. No matter what they did, they would be jumping into a fire pit. It was no wonder that when the others heard that Lu Ming would be transferred to the law enforcement army, they all reacted that way. Sigh, once he is transferred to the law enforcement army, it's all over. Moreover, the 1,000,000-year national ceremony is coming. When the time comes, the holy city will gather and all the major forces of the divine wilderness continent will gather. It will definitely be chaotic. What should the law enforcement army do? Only death awaits. Chapter 1100. 3 days later, the transfer order was officially issued. Lu Ming was transferred to the Enforcer Army as the commander, leading a team of 100 people. Sun Lin would follow him. Lu Ming took the transfer order and set off with Sun Lin. Lu Ming didn't mind. To him, the Enforcer Army was better as it gave him more freedom. He could walk around the holy city as he pleased. That way, he would be able to gather more information. Sun Lin, on the other hand, was listless. He had a gloomy expression on his face. Soon, the two of them arrived at the Enforcer Army's encampment, the Enforcer Hall. There were many Enforcer Halls in the Holy City. A team of 100 people was led by a commander. They were stationed in the Enforcer Hall and were responsible for enforcing the law in a certain area of the Holy City. Lu Ming was the commander of this team of enforcers. He was mainly in charge of an area in the northeast of the Holy City. When Lu Ming walked in, he only saw a few figures sitting listlessly in the Enforcer Hall. He didn't see anyone else. After seeing Lu Ming's group, those people only glanced at Lu Ming casually and continued to sit listlessly. Lu Ming frowned and said, "Just the few of you, where are the others?" One of them looked at Lu Ming and said, "Who are you? You dare to barge into the Enforcer Hall without permission, do you know that this is a serious crime?" "I'm the new commander." "Let me ask you, where are the others?" Lu Ming took out a token and shouted coldly. "The new commander?" Those people's eyes suddenly lit up, flickering with greed and burning flames. They seemed to be suddenly energized and stood up one after another. Then, one of them shouted, "A new commander is here. Brothers, come out, we have money to spend again." His voice spread far and wide. Just as his voice fell, the sound of breaking wind rang out. Figures rushed out from various rooms in the Enforcer Hall. There were at least 80 to 90 people. As soon as these people appeared, they stared at Lu Ming and Sun Lin with burning eyes. It was as if they were burly men who had been thirsty for decades and saw a peerlessly enchanting beauty. "Ha, another unlucky bastard has arrived, and it's even a commander. You've come at the right time. Take out all your origin stones and treasures and share them with us brothers." A burly man who looked like a gorilla stepped out. His muscles bulged as he stared at Lu Ming with a ferocious gaze. "Hee, you're actually just a martial arts practitioner at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm and you're transferred here to be a commander. I really don't know which big shot you've offended. However, no matter who you've offended, since you're here, hand over the origin stones and treasures." A gray-haired old man in his 60s sneered. "Haha, once we get the origin stones, let's go eat and drink to our heart's content, shall we?" "That's for sure. Motherfucker, I haven't enjoyed it for a long time." The others were also in a hubbub, talking one after another, looking at Lu Ming as if they were looking at a piece of fat meat. Sun Lin's face was pale. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. This was the law enforcement army. This was the law enforcement hall. Lu Ming almost thought that he had come to a bandit's lair. These people actually wanted to rob him. After careful observation, this was undoubtedly the law enforcement hall. "You guys want to rob me?" Lu Ming's face revealed an indescribable smile. "If you want to interpret it that way, that's fine too. Hurry up, otherwise my fist is going to itch." The burly man who looked like a gorilla stared at Lu Ming unkindly. The smile on Lu Ming's face became even wider. Sweeping his gaze, he said, "Since that's the case, all right, I'll rob you now. Hand over all your storage rings." What? What did you say? Once Lu Ming's words came out, the entire place quietened down. Everyone looked at Lu Ming dumbfounded. After a while, everyone burst into laughter. Did I hear wrongly? This fellow at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm actually wants to rob us? Who does he think he is? Does he really think he's a commander? Isn't he the same as us, an unlucky fellow who offended someone he shouldn't have offended? What a joke! Bang! The burly man with the gorilla took a step forward and a violent aura burst out from his body. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed at Lu Ming. This person's cultivation was at the consummate level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Among this group of people, he was at the peak. Let's see what abilities you have. The burly man with the gorilla revealed a ferocious expression. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. He stretched out a hand and grabbed the wrist of the burly man with lightning speed. His vital essence burst forth as he grabbed the burly man and flung him violently. Boom! The burly man with the gorilla was like a sandbag as he crashed heavily onto the ground, causing the entire law enforcement hall to tremble violently. If it wasn't for the powerful formation inscribed in the law enforcement hall, it would probably have exploded. The burly man with the gorilla screamed miserably as he crashed onto the ground. His cultivation and vital essence were incomparably weak in the hands of Lu Ming. They were completely scattered by Lu Ming. At this moment, his entire body seemed to have fallen apart. He didn't have any strength left as he laid on the ground, howling in grief. Everyone suddenly became silent as they looked at Lu Ming in shock. The burly man with the cultivation of the consummate level of Spirit Embryo Realm was actually beaten to the point where he couldn't resist at all. How was this possible? Brothers, let's attack together. This person's battle prowess is profound, so he must have a lot of benefits on him. Let's attack. The white-haired elder shouted loudly. 80 to 90 law enforcers also shouted and rushed towards Lu Ming like a swarm of bees. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed over like a flowing light. He slapped out. Pack! Pack! In the law enforcement hall, rapid slapping sounds could be heard, as well as howls and screams of agony, which were all mixed together. In less than a minute, 80 to 90 law enforcers were lying all over the law enforcement hall. They were lying on the ground and howling in grief. One side of their faces was bulging up, making them look incomparably miserable. Sun Lin looked at this scene dumbfoundedly. His mouth was opened so wide that he could swallow a duck egg. Was Lu Ming's cultivation at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm? Wasn't his battle prowess a little too strong? In this team of law enforcers, there were 5 to 6 people with consummate spirit embryos. The rest of them were experts at least at the 4th level of Spirit Embryo Realm and above. However, in less than a minute, they were all beaten down by Lu Ming. They were as weak as babies. This was too terrifying. He felt that his head couldn't quite turn around. You dare to attack me? You're courting death. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Now, Lu Ming had the appearance of a burly man with a full beard. When he glared, he looked quite imposing. Grabbing the air with his palm, his vital essence burst forth. The storage rings on the fingers of these law enforcers were all sucked over by Lu Ming. If they wanted to rob him, they had to be prepared to be robbed by him. First, Lu Ming picked up the storage ring of the burly chimpanzee and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. He was dumbfounded. This. Aren't you a little too poor? Lu Ming stared at the burly chimpanzee and was completely speechless. In the storage ring of the burly chimpanzee, other than a few spirit crystals, there was almost nothing else. Origin stones, no. Good spirit weapons, no. Not to mention any precious medicinal pills or materials. It was completely empty. There was nothing at all. This was a storage ring with a consummate spirit embryo after all. How could it be so poor? Next, Lu Ming looked at the storage rings of other people. Many of them were even poorer than the burly chimpanzee. Chapter 11:01. Lu Ming scanned dozens of storage rings and found that they were all similar. The contents inside were miserable and didn't look like the storage rings of martial artists above the 4th level of spirit embryo realm at all. Looking at Lu Ming's dumbfounded expression, the chimpanzee and the others were embarrassed. With a wave of his hand, all the storage rings flew back to the chimpanzee and the others. "Get up, don't play dead." Lu Ming looked around and said coldly. Lu Ming didn't hit them hard just now. He only scattered their vital essence temporarily, so it wasn't a big deal. After all, Lu Ming was the commander of these people. He couldn't kill them as soon as he arrived. The chimpanzee and the others got up from the ground one by one. "Commander, your battle power is profound. I'm really impressed." As soon as he got up, the chimpanzee showed a simple and honest smile, which was completely different from the ferocious look just now. "Yes, yes. Commander, your cultivation is unparalleled. You got rid of us in just a few moves. It's the first time I've seen something like this in all my years." The white-haired elder also flattered. "Commander is invincible. Commander is mighty." The other members of the law enforcement army also flattered. Lu Ming's eyelids kept twitching. He was quite speechless. What kind of people were these? They wanted to rob him just now, but now they changed their attitude so quickly. "Why are you so poor? You don't even have a piece of origin stone in your storage rings?" Lu Ming asked curiously. "Sigh. We are the law enforcement army. It's so hard." "Commander, it's like this," everyone started to explain to Lu Ming. After listening, Lu Ming fell into deep thought. The life of the law enforcement army was even worse than what Sun Lin said. The law enforcement army had to enforce the law in the sacred city and protect the reputation of the ancient Saint dynasty. However, the ancient Saint dynasty had declined. Although it was still an overlord force, or even the strongest one, it was just an overlord force. It no longer had the power to dominate the world. Therefore, when it did things, it had to be scrupulous and had to build a good relationship with other forces. Therefore, the law enforcement army didn't dare to arrest or punish the people of the big forces when they committed crimes. However, they had to protect the reputation of the royal family. What could they do? Therefore, most of the time, the law enforcement army had to pay out of their own pockets to give gifts to the disciples of the big forces and those who had committed crimes. They would ask them to do a good deed and apologize in public. In this way, the law enforcement army would naturally protect the reputation of the royal family. The criminals would also admit their mistakes and the matter would be resolved. However, they had to fork out their own money. Over time, it would be strange if the law enforcement army was not poor. It was no wonder that they wanted to rob Lu Ming as soon as they saw that he was new. Lu Ming was speechless. The law enforcement army was too cowardly. The culprit was fine, but they had to give the culprit benefits. This was simply unheard of. The law enforcement army is supposed to enforce the law under the heavens and represent the ancient sage dynasty in enforcing the law. However, it's a pity that the ancient sage dynasty no longer has the power to do so. In fact, the law enforcement army could have been removed long ago. However, the imperial family has kept it for the sake of their dignity. The white-haired old man sighed. Lu Ming finally knew why Xie Zhen transferred him to the law enforcement army and made him a commander. The million-year national ceremony was getting closer and closer. People from all the big forces would gather. It was an eventful time. If something went wrong, Lu Ming would offend someone and he wouldn't even know how he died. Moreover, the responsibility of a commander would naturally be greater. "Xie Zhen, if you want to play, let's play." Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. He waved his hand and a storage ring flew towards the chimpanzee man. "There are 10,000 origin stones here. Use it to buy some good wine and delicacies. I'll treat everyone to a good meal." If there's more, each of you can buy a spiritual weapon. These people were simply too poor, to the point that they had even sold their own spirit weapons. 10,000 origin stones. The chimpanzee man took the ring and was stunned at first. Then, he was overjoyed and said, "Thank you, Commander." The others were also overjoyed. They thanked Lu Ming and then went to buy good wine, delicacies, and spiritual weapons. The wine and delicacies that martial artists ate were different from those of ordinary people. They were all from powerful fierce beasts and demon beasts. The wine was also spiritual wine, which was very expensive. Half a day later, the chimpanzee man and others bought a lot of good wine and delicacies. The 80 to 90 people were divided into several tables and ate to their heart's content. They hadn't eaten and drank to their heart's content for a long time. At the moment, they were quite grateful to Lu Ming. Everyone ate and drank while chatting. Through chatting, Lu Ming learned that these people had offended big shots and were transferred here. They had families and friends in the sacred city. They couldn't escape, so they could only suffer in the law enforcement army. Everyone ate and drank for a few hours. Not good. Someone destroyed a shop on North Street and killed the shopkeeper. He's still there now. Suddenly, a law enforcement army soldier rushed in to report the news. What? Who did it? Trouble, something happened again. The chimpanzee man and others' faces changed drastically. They were usually most afraid of accidents because once something happened, it would be easy to deal with some unknown people. However, if it was a big shot, it would be difficult. It's the young master of the Huang family, Huang Ku. The messenger said. What? The Huang family is a family with many spiritual immortals. What should we do? The chimpanzee man and others' faces changed drastically. They couldn't offend any force with a spiritual immortal. Otherwise, the spiritual immortals of the other party could directly find their superiors and put pressure on them. Let's go and have a look. Lu Ming picked up a glass of wine, drank it all, and strode out. You, we'll go together. The chimpanzee man picked a dozen people and followed Lu Ming out of the law enforcement hall. Their law enforcement hall was in the northeast of the sacred city. It was very close to North Street. They arrived in a short while. On the way, Lu Ming also knew what was going on. Huang Ku, the young master of the Huang family, took a fancy to a treasure in his shop, but there was no origin stone. He said that he owed it first and wanted to take the treasure first. Those who knew Huang Ku knew that he had never paid back anything he owed. The shopkeeper naturally didn't agree, so Huang Ku killed the shopkeeper and destroyed the shop. He even wanted to kill the shopkeeper's family. As soon as he arrived, he heard an arrogant voice. Damn it, I gave you face but you didn't take it. I said that you owed it first. It's not like you won't pay it back. Why don't you agree? You're courting death. Who can you blame? An arrogant voice sounded. Get out of the way. If you don't get out of the way, I'll kill you too. A deep voice sounded. It must have been Huang Ku's servant. Get out of the way, get out of the way. The law enforcement army is on duty. Get out of the way. The chimpanzee man roared. The crowd made way, and Lu Ming strode over. A white-haired old man was lying on the ground, no longer breathing.